In the quiet, windswept village of Bar, Bihar, India, nestled beside the Ganges River, time seemed to move slowly, almost reverently. But in 1968, a seemingly ordinary event shattered this calm. The birth of a girl named Priyanka Sharma. What made Priyanka extraordinary was not her vibrant spirit or curious eyes, but the ancient wisdom that seemed to reside within them. At the tender age of 3, Priyanka began to speak, not in the innocent babble of a toddler, but in a dialect foreign to her family, recounting memories of a life lived 40 years before her birth, a life that ended tragically and unexpectedly. She was born 40 years after her death. A voice, ethereal and profound, seemed to echo through the very air around the child, a voice that carried the weight of a past tragically cut short. But she knew every detail of her old life. Her parents, traditional and devout, were initially bewildered, then deeply concerned. Priyanka spoke of a different name, Sushila Devi, a different family, and a different village, hundreds of kilometers away in Kanaushi, Uttar Pradesh. She described a vibrant, bustling life as a young woman, a loving husband named Ramesh Chandra, and a terrible, sudden illness that took her life while she was still in her prime. The village elders dismissed it as a child's vivid imagination, perhaps influenced by old stories. But Priyanka's descriptions grew increasingly specific, more consistent, and alarmingly accurate. She spoke of a house with a distinctive mango tree in the courtyard, a small tailor shop her husband owned, and even the precise details of her wedding sari, down to the intricate embroidery. She described hidden jewelry, family secrets, and specific local landmarks in a town she had never physically visited. What happened next would become one of the most astonishing and thoroughly investigated cases of alleged past life memory in the history of psychic research, one that would force a skeptical world to confront the profound implications of reincarnation. This isn't folklore whispered around a campfire. It's a meticulously documented case, investigated by renowned international researchers, verified by historical records, and corroborated by the stunned testimonies of 2 families separated by time and distance, all pointing to the undeniable possibility that some personal identities transcend death, even across decades. But Priyanka's case is just the beginning. Today, we're diving deep into 3 extraordinary real-life cases where children were born decades after the death of their alleged previous personalities, yet possessed such intimate and verifiable knowledge of their former lives that they compelled even the most hardened skeptics to question the very fabric of existence. These are documented instances where the innocent memories of a child bridged chasms of time, bringing forgotten truths and profound comfort to grieving families. The first case, of course, begins with Priyanka Sharma, but it doesn't end there. Because what Priyanka remembered about her previous life would lead investigators down a path so specific, so emotionally resonant, and so verifiable that it would force 2 families, separated by more than 40 years, to confront a terrifying possibility that some memories are simply too strong to die, and the soul's journey may be far longer than we ever imagined. Priyanka's parents, sensing that their daughter's claims were more than just child's play, embarked on a desperate quest for answers. Priyanka consistently called out for her husband, Ramesh, and her son Vinod, and described her home in Kanauj with astonishing detail. She knew that Ramesh kept his account books in a specific wooden chest, that Sushila had a scar on her left ankle from a childhood burn, and that their house had a unique, intricately carved wooden doorframe. Most heartbreakingly, she spoke of dying suddenly from a severe fever, leaving her young son behind. Driven by a desperate hope for clarity, Priyanka's father, a humble farmer, made the arduous journey to Kanauj, a city hundreds of kilometers away, with only the meager details his daughter provided. He found a tailor shop matching the description, owned by an elderly man named Ramesh Chandra, exactly as Priyanka had described. When Priyanka's father cautiously approached Ramesh Chandra and began to recount his daughter's story, Ramesh, though initially skeptical, was visibly shaken as the details of his late wife, Sushila Devi, began to emerge from the mouth of a stranger. 40 years after her death, the stage was set for a truly unprecedented encounter. A meeting was arranged, a committee was formed to observe, and Priyanka, now 5, was brought to Kanagush. Upon arrival in the city, which she had never physically been to in her current life, the little girl immediately became agitated. She pointed to specific landmarks, identifying them as they would have been in the 1920s. Much to the astonishment of the older locals present, she led the committee directly through winding streets to a specific house. "This is my home," she exclaimed, rushing inside. Without hesitation, she ran to an elderly man, tears streaming down her face, and cried, "Ramesh, my husband." Ramesh Chandra, an old man who had lived with the ghost of his beloved wife for decades, embraced the child, tears flowing freely down his weathered cheeks. But the most compelling evidence was yet to come. Inside the house, Priyanka pointed to the distinctive mango tree in the courtyard and identified it. She then led them to a specific wooden chest and correctly identified it as where Ramesh kept his account books. She then astonished everyone by pointing to the exact spot where Sushila Devi had hidden her prized wedding jewelry, set of intricate silver bangles which Ramesh had long believed lost. When Ramesh searched, he found the bangles exactly where Priyanka said they would be. Priyanka also correctly identified Sushila's son, Vinod, now an elderly man, and recounted intimate details of his childhood that only his mother could have known. She spoke of family quarrels, specific recipes Sushila used to make, and even a secret shortcut through the fields to the local temple that only Sushila used. The committee's report, later documented by Dr. Satwant Pasricha and Dr. Ian Stevenson of the University of Virginia, concluded that Priyanka Sharma's case was a remarkable example of reincarnation, with verifiable details that span decades and cannot be explained by any normal means of information transfer. The story became a sensation, drawing international attention and deepening the mystery of consciousness. The case of Priyanka Sharma and Sushila Devi became a cornerstone for the scientific study of reincarnation, offering compelling evidence for the survival of consciousness across significant time gaps. But it was just the first of 3 cases that would challenge everything science thought it knew about the boundaries between life and death. The second case takes us to rural Lebanon, where a young boy's vivid birthmarks and specific nightmares would unlock the secrets of a life tragically cut short by violence. A life lived decades before his own. In 1975, in the mountainous village of Cornell, Lebanon, a 2-year-old boy named Ahmed Ilawer began speaking of a previous life as a man named Ibrahim Bauhamzi. What was particularly striking was not just the clarity of his memories, but the physical evidence on his body: a large, irregular birthmark on his right temple, and another, smaller one, on the back of his head. Ahmed claimed these were the entry and exit wounds of a gunshot that killed him in his previous life. Ahmed told his parents that in his previous life, he was a member of a prominent Druze family. He spoke of a land dispute that led to a violent argument, and of being shot by a neighbor, then left to die. He remembered specific details about his family, his wife, and a particular incident where he helped a neighbor fix a broken tractor. Dr. Ian Stevenson, the world's leading researcher on reincarnation cases, arrived in Cornell in 1978 to investigate what would become one of the most thoroughly documented and physically corroborated cases in his 40-year career. Ahmed's description of his previous identity as Ibrahim Bauhamzi was remarkably consistent and detailed. He knew that Ibrahim had lived in a village several kilometers away, called Khald. He knew the names of Ibrahim's wife, Yamile, his children, and even their specific nicknames. He recalled that Ibrahim had been a very tall man, known for his strength and generosity. When Dr. Stevenson researched the historical records, he found that a man named Ibrahim Bauhamzi had indeed lived in Khald and had been shot and killed in 1943 during a dispute, exactly 32 years before Ahmad's birth. Autopsy reports from 1943 confirmed that Ibrahim had suffered gunshot wounds to the right temple, entry, and the back of his head, exit, matching the locations and appearance of Ahmad's birthmarks. The case took a dramatic turn when Dr. Stevenson arranged for Ahmad to visit Khald. Upon arrival, Ahmad, then 5 years old, immediately recognized various landmarks, pointing to them and describing what they had been like in the 1940s. He then led the investigative team directly to Ibrahim Bauhamzi's former house. Inside the house, Ahmad recognized several of Ibrahim's surviving relatives, including his elderly widow, Yamila, whom he embraced with deep affection, calling her my wife. He then proceeded to accurately identify more than 20 family members, some by names he could not have known, and recounted specific, intimate family anecdotes that left the relatives stunned and tearful. He even recognized the neighbor he had supposedly helped with the tractor, an event that had taken place decades before Ahmad's birth. But the most compelling evidence came from Ahmad's specific memory of a hidden pistol. He led Yamile to a particular spot in the garden, underneath a specific olive tree, and insisted that my pistol is buried here. It's small and has a pearl handle. When the family dug in the indicated spot, they unearthed a small pearl-handled pistol, exactly as Ahmad had described. This was a family secret, known only to Ibrahim and Yamile, and the pistol itself was a unique item from that era. What made Ahmad's case particularly compelling was not just the accuracy of his memories spanning decades, but the direct physical correlation of his birthmarks to fatal wounds on his alleged previous personality. Dr. Stevenson's detailed medical examination confirmed the precise alignment of the birthmarks with the autopsy report of Ibrahim Bouhamzy. Dr. Stevenson's extensive investigation, published in Children Who Remember Previous Lives and other academic journals, concluded that Ahmad's case represented extraordinary evidence for the persistence of personal memories and somatic markers, birthmarks, across death and rebirth, with verifiable information that could not have been obtained through normal sensory channels. The case of Ahmad Alaour and Ibrahim Bauhamzi provided profound insights into the physical manifestations of past life memories. But it was overshadowed by the third and most chilling case in this investigation, the story of a young boy in Myanmar, whose memories of a past life would reveal not just the identity of a murdered individual, but a complex, decades-old web of family betrayal and the exact location of his hidden remains. In 1999, in the remote, mountainous region of Shan State, Myanmar, a 5-year-old boy named Maung Kaya Thirst began exhibiting highly unusual behavior. He spoke constantly of a specific village far away, of a large, distinctive monastery, and of being a farmer named Yu Kin Maung. But most disturbingly, he complained of constant pain in his chest and stomach, and would often make choking sounds. Reliving a gruesome death, Maung Kaya Thirst told his parents that in his previous life, he had been a wealthy farmer who was poisoned by his jealous half-brother over an inheritance dispute. He described feeling his throat burn, his stomach seize, and collapsing in his fields alone before his body was secretly disposed of. He remembered the exact spot where he was buried, the specific details of his half-brother's treachery, and even the type of traditional necklace he was wearing when he died. Dr. Jürgen Kiel, a German psychologist who had specialized in Asian reincarnation cases, traveled to Shan State in 2001 to investigate Maung Kya Thursday's claims. What he found was a case that intertwined past life memory with a long-forgotten, hidden crime. Maung Kai-thur's description of his previous identity as Yu Kin Maung was remarkably consistent and detailed. He knew that Yu Kin Maung had lived in a village 2 days' journey away called Lying. He knew that Yu Kin Maung had owned a large buffalo herd and had a distinctive gold tooth. He even described a secret stash of money hidden in his previous home, intended for his eldest son. When Dr. Keel researched the historical records, he found that a wealthy farmer named Yu Kin Maung had indeed lived in Lying and had disappeared mysteriously in 1957, approximately 42 years before Maung Kyaw Thursday's birth. His disappearance had been officially attributed to fleeing a family dispute, but villagers had always whispered about foul play. The case took a dramatic turn when Dr. Keel arranged for Maung Kyaw Thursday to visit Lying. Upon arrival, the 5-year-old boy immediately recognized the distinctive monastery and several elderly villagers, whom he called by their old names. He then led the investigative team, including local authorities, to a specific, overgrown section of a rice paddy field outside the village. "This is where they buried me," Maung Kyaw Thursday said, pointing to a raised mound near a crooked banyan tree. "My half-brother put me here after he gave me the poison. He thought no one would find me." Local authorities, working with Dr. Keel's research team, excavated the area. 3 feet below the surface, they found human remains. Forensic analysis of the skeleton revealed traces of slow-acting poison in the bone marrow, consistent with Maung Kyaw Thursday's claims of being poisoned. Carbon dating confirmed that the remains were approximately 44 years old, placing the time of death right around 1957. Dental records, obtained from an old village healer who had treated Yu Kin Maung, provided a positive identification of the Ya. Remains as those of Yu Kin Maung, but the most shocking discovery came when investigators found a distinctive, ornate silver necklace buried with the remains, exactly as Maung Kyaw Thursday had described. And further investigation, prompted by Maung Kyaw Thursday's memories, led them to Yu Kin Maung's former home, where they found a hidden compartment in the wall. Inside was a substantial amount of Burmese kyat, carefully wrapped, and a small, leather-bound diary written by Yu Kin Maung, detailing his suspicions about his half-brother, his fear of being poisoned, and his intention to hide his wealth for his son. The investigation revealed that Yu Kin Maung's half-brother, Van Tay, had indeed poisoned him to gain control of his land and wealth. Van Tay had died of natural causes years earlier, but the evidence unearthed by Maung Kyaw Thursday's memories brought posthumous justice and closure to Yu Kin Maung's surviving family, who had grieved his disappearance for decades. What made Maung Kyaw Thursday's case particularly compelling was not just the accuracy of his memories, but the fact that he possessed knowledge that no living person in the village, other than the direct perpetrators, had access to. The location of Yu Kin Maung's body, the existence of the hidden money and diary, and the specific details of how the murder had been carried out were secrets that had died with the perpetrators. Dr. Keel's investigation, published in various international parapsychology journals, concluded that Maung Kyaw Thursday's case represented extraordinary evidence for the persistence of personal memories across death and rebirth, with verifiable information that could not have been obtained through normal sensory channels, and led to the uncovering of a sophisticated, decades-old murder and cover-up. These 3 cases, spanning different cultures, time periods, and circumstances, share common elements that challenge our understanding of consciousness, memory, and the possibility of survival after death. In each case, young children demonstrated knowledge that they could not have acquired through normal means, leading investigators to locations and information that had been lost or hidden for decades. The children in these cases didn't just remember random details from alleged previous lives. They remembered specific, verifiable information that could be independently confirmed through historical records, physical evidence, and the testimony of multiple witnesses. Priyanka Sharma knew intimate details about Sushila Devi's life and death, leading to the discovery of hidden jewelry and confirming details of her past home. Ahmedi Lauer's birthmarks directly corresponded to the fatal wounds of Ibrahim Bouhamzi, and he led investigators to a hidden weapon. Maung Teo Thirst led investigators to the hidden burial site of Hu Kin Maung and revealed the location of hidden wealth and a diary that confirmed a decades-old poisoning dot in each instance. Extensive investigation ruled out the possibility that the children had acquired their knowledge through conventional means. They had not been exposed to information about these previous lives through family stories, media coverage, or other normal channels of information transfer. The sheer span of time, minus 40 years, 32 years, 42 years, between the alleged death and rebirth in these cases further strengthens the extraordinary nature of their memories, the consistency and specificity of their memories, combined with the verifiable accuracy of the information they provided, presents a profound challenge to materialist theories of consciousness that assume all mental activity is produced by the brain and ceases at death. Researchers at the University of Virginia's Division of Perceptual Studies, building on decades of meticulous work, continue to explore these profound phenomena. Their extensive research has identified common patterns that appear in alleged reincarnation cases worldwide. Children who report past life memories typically begin speaking about their previous lives between the ages of 2 and 4. Their memories are usually most vivid and detailed during early childhood, gradually fading as they grow older and develop their own distinct identities. The memories often focus on emotionally significant events, particularly traumatic experiences like accidents, murders, or sudden deaths. Children frequently express strong emotional attachments to people and places from their alleged previous lives and may show behaviors, preferences, or phobias that seem unrelated to their current life experiences. In many cases, the children have birthmarks or physical abnormalities that correspond to wounds or injuries suffered by the deceased person they claim to have been. Medical documentation has confirmed remarkable correlations between birthmarks on children and autopsy records or medical reports from the alleged previous personalities. Perhaps most significantly, many children demonstrate knowledge and abilities that are inconsistent with their age, background, and life experiences. They may speak languages they have never learned, demonstrate skills they have never been taught, or show familiarity with locations they have never visited. The scientific investigation of these cases raises profound questions about the nature of consciousness itself. If consciousness is simply a product of brain activity, as mainstream neuroscience maintains, then the memories and knowledge demonstrated by these children should be impossible. The fact that such cases continue to be documented and verified by rigorous scientific investigation suggests that our understanding of consciousness may be fundamentally incomplete. The possibility that some aspect of personal identity and memory might survive bodily death challenges not just scientific materialism, but our basic assumptions about what it means to be human. The cases of Priyanka Sharma, Ahmedi Lauer, and Maung Teo Thursday represent just a small fraction of the documented evidence for the survival of consciousness beyond death. Each case, investigated by trained researchers and verified through multiple independent sources, presents compelling evidence that death may not be the end of our story. These children didn't just remember fragments of previous lives. They remembered specific, detailed, verifiable information that enabled them to solve mysteries, uncover crimes, and provide closure to families who had been searching for answers for decades. Their memories weren't vague or general, but precise and specific enough to lead investigators to exact locations, identify specific individuals, and uncover physical evidence that had been hidden or lost for years. The scientific documentation of these cases, published in peer-reviewed journals and investigated by respected researchers, provides a foundation of evidence that challenges our most basic assumptions about consciousness, memory, and the possibility of life after death. As we continue to explore the mysteries of consciousness and the nature of human identity, cases like these remind us that reality may be far stranger and more complex than we ever imagined. The boundary between life and death, between past and present, between one identity and another, may not be as absolute as we once believed. The profound, almost ancient certainty in the eyes of Priyanka Sharma, a child born 40 years after her alleged death, who knew every intimate detail of her old life, continues to echo through the corridors of scientific inquiry. Simple words that opened a doorway to possibilities we're only beginning to understand, and questions we're only beginning to ask. In a world where consciousness remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of science, these cases offer tantalizing glimpses of truths that lie beyond the boundaries of our current understanding. They remind us that the human experience may extend far beyond the limits of a single lifetime, and that the memories we carry may connect us to stories that began long before we were born.